Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Many people in relationships tend to skip the conversation about how much alone time they need when they're in a relationship. And sometimes this changes depending on what relationship they're in. But for the most part, people have kind of a general understanding of, hey, I need a little alone time when I come home from work, or I would like to have one night to myself, or 4 nights to myself, or I just want to go out and spend maybe 1 or 2 nights together. But these conversations are really helpful to have right up front, particularly when you're dating. But you can also still navigate them if you've been together for quite a while and maybe you're still struggling with trying to establish kind of what these boundaries look like. And often it's related to whether someone is more introverted or extroverted. So sometimes people who are more introverted can be comfortable with social interaction, but they have a point where it becomes really more demanding emotionally and more draining than it is beneficial. And I found that when couples have one extrovert and one introvert, it can be complicated to navigate how they work that out in their social life in particular, but also how they work that out individually for spending quality time together, but also maintaining that boundary, that ability to have alone time and have some self-care that's really going to help them sustain a healthy relationship in general and helps them to establish their own self-care in a productive way. So, for example, I've heard many people talk about, well, I want to go out with my partner to the events that they want to go to, but a couple hours in, I'm really done and I'm maxed out and I would really like a break. So, rather than maybe going home or having another plan, they stick it out and they become a little less engaged, or they pull back, or they're quiet, and maybe their partner is not real thrilled about this. So it appears that maybe they are not enjoying themselves, which is actually probably relatively true. Is setting those boundaries up front if you're wanting to go out with your partner who's more extroverted, to say, hey, I'd love to go out with you, but I need a limit. So I'll hang out with you for a couple hours, but then I'd love it if I could, just maybe say I have something else going on and I can leave and then come back and pick you up later on in the evening so that you can have your time, but that I can also have my time. And again, this is not about being selfish or self-absorbed. This is just literally how people's bodies work. Is introverts get overly activated often by overstimulation with social interaction. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just being aware of what your time frame is, what your limit is. And sometimes extroverts actually need to evaluate this for themselves as well, but it's a little more challenging because they get a lot of charge from having that social interaction. So it's much more fulfilling for them to have that social engagement time. But they also need to evaluate, okay, how much time is too much time for me to be socially interacting? And what am I doing for self-care and doing some internal focus time to really make sure that I'm not just externalizing everything, that I'm not just totally focused on everything externally and ignoring my internal stressors or internal emotions. So being an introvert or an extrovert, they both have their struggles, they both have their benefits. And you can actually have a really healthy relationship having an introvert and an extrovert in a couple, and it can help balance each other out. Like I've mentioned in other videos, is sometimes opposites can actually benefit each other. But it's about finding balance, and sometimes introverts and extroverts can help each other to find that balance and what that looks like. But it's a lot about communicating your needs and being able to recognize your own needs to begin with, right? So one way to have this conversation with your partner is simply to ask them questions about it. Like, so, it seems like you really enjoy going out with your friends like several nights a week. And that's fine, but what would it be like for you if I didn't join you all of those times? Would that be okay with you? And to really be clear that it's not that I don't like your friends or that I don't want to hang out with you. It's just that sometimes I need some time for myself to kind of decompress, to process my own emotions, my own feelings. And that is really important to me. So you are also important to me, but I also need to make sure that I'm doing my own self-care so that I don't feel like I'm pouring from an empty cup, so to speak. So being able to ask for your alone time, being able to express the way that you need to have more self-care. And also, if you're extroverted and your partner's maybe not going out with you at all, trying to find that conversation piece where, hey, I understand that love hanging out socially all the time, but is there a period of time that you would feel comfortable with? Because I would like you to kind of get to know my friends a little bit more, or I'd like you to meet my family, or whatever that social engagement that you are hoping to have them be a part of. But to have an open invitation, and then the challenging part is to try not to take it personally if they want to spend less time than you do, because that's pretty common whenever someone's an introvert versus an extrovert. So really making sure that you're clear with how that conversation goes, being open and honest about, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or there's just we're having a little too much social engagement time, or for that extrovert, we're not having enough social engagement time, and I'd really like to explore that. Ideally, you can assess these situations from the beginning of your relationship. So this is why, for those of you who are dating, and especially those of you who've been single for a while and have really found being singledom enjoyable in many ways, because you have been able to really focus on your own needs and what feels good to you, to be clear about what has worked for you, what that looks like, and be able to integrate that into your future relationship, that you don't have to sacrifice yourself or give up your alone time in order to have a relationship. And you may find that the people that you are dating either are able to fit into that lifestyle that you have established, or that they're not. But you can also evaluate whether or not you're able to be flexible and adapt a little bit to a different kind of lifestyle. So it's finding that balance of, hey, I've established some pretty comfortable time alone and I really like the way that looks. I need to integrate somebody else into my life, but I also don't need to sacrifice everything that I have established and gained from being single, because that's a really important, valuable time for you to be able to assess what your needs are and what feels good to you and what doesn't. So again, making sure you're asking those questions of the people that you're dating is, what does it look like to spend quality time together? How often is that? Are you going to need to hang out every day? And that also goes for social media and texting, right? So are you going to have to be on the phone with me 24 hours a day? And if you are, why? You want somebody to be able to have some independence and be able to have their own alone time, at least to some extent. So obviously they don't have to match you exactly, but you want them to be able to have a little bit of alone time on their own and be comfortable being independent as well. So these are conversations that are important to explore. And if you are dating, especially asking what that looks like for each other. And like I said, if you are already in a relationship with somebody and maybe you're struggling with kind of setting some clear boundaries with what feels good for you, that it's never too late to have these conversations. And it might be uncomfortable and a little bit challenging at first to change the rules, so to speak, in a relationship, is whenever you've established maybe a little bit too much closeness, too much together time, maybe you're a little bit codependent, trying to change that and create more of a sense of independence can feel a little overwhelming and stressful when you're first exploring that possibility. But ultimately, if you're both willing and able to grow together, it can really get you to a much more comfortable place where you can both have kind of your own lives and still really enhance each other's lives. And for those of you, again, who are dating, remembering that it's really important to come to a relationship as a whole person to start with, that having your own sense of independence is a valuable asset. So your time being single is really important, and it's valuable for you to really establish who you are, what you need, what you want, what you like, so that you can have that clarity of, am I looking for an introvert? Am I looking for an extrovert? Am I looking for somebody who can help balance me out? Or is that really a priority to me? Or am I kind of in between? I'm not real introverted or extroverted. I'm kind of in the middle, so it's not that big of an issue for me. But anyhow, whoever you are, to establish what that looks like for you and to really get some clarity about what you want in your future relationship or in your relationship that you're currently in. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful.